Oh, you did get it.
Oops.
That has all totally changed, Lyra. So everybody, that's not going to be the same next week. That's what I was attempting to try to show you now.
What happened?
Apparently, we're not supposed to have this meeting today, Lyra.
And there we have our special guest tonight, Pamela Olson, joining us. And I want to welcome you all to the Parent Advocate Network, hosted by the Coalition for the Protection of Children and Families. And my name is Lyra, and I will be your host tonight. Thank you all for joining us. And we're really excited to learn more about what's going on with the executive order. And it seems that Tom is working to share a...
Yeah, just go ahead. There's not going to be no music, so you can go ahead.
Okay, can I get, can you unshare that so we can share the executive order that Pamela is going to be talking about? All right. So if you give me a moment, I'm going to pull it up right now. This executive order is something that was drafted up on a request to Don Rufty for family rights, and this is something that we would like a little more understanding of, and Pamela is here tonight to give us a better understanding of it. But I will read the first part. This is proposed executive order by Don Rufty. This is today's draft, and he says, in response to thousands of meritorious complaints that I have received from the American people from all over the nation since taking office as your president, I am issuing this very belated executive order. For decades, numerous lower court judges have issued court orders that violate the rights of Americans. Each such illicit court order is a clear-cut felony committed by the judge pursuant to U.S. Code Title 18, Section 242. Although the law is crystal clear and easily understood, the aforementioned violations have continued unabated. The result of these crimes against the people has been horrendous. These abominations have been especially prevalent in the family courts. The social carnage of which I spoke in my inaugural address has destroyed the lives of millions of American citizens. Millions of American children have been wrongfully taken under color of law from fit parents. The parents have become financially destitute in their futile efforts to rescue their children from the foster care industry. Many have become homeless, and many others have committed suicide. Not only have the mothers and fathers committed suicide, many of the children who have been physically, sexually, and chemically abused in foster care have also committed suicide. This very dark chapter in American history is going to come to an end, so help me God. The numerous violations of the rights of the people have enabled the family court racket to operate for decades. Motivation for this ongoing criminal enterprise has been monetary. Hundreds of billions of dollars have been taken from the Social Security Trust Fund to finance this criminality. Draining the Social Security Trust Fund, in effect, is stealing the retirement of the younger generation of Americans. I am hereby ordering vigorous enforcement of federal criminal complaints submitted to federal magistrate judges in conjunction with Rule 3 and 4 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure pursuant to U.S. Code Title 18, Section 242. Any non-compliance with this order will be ample grounds for removal of any judge who is guilty of obstruction of justice, dereliction of duty, malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance. Any such offender will also be indicated and prosecuted, or indicted, I apologize, and prosecuted. Signed, Donald Trump, President of the United States. And so that is the proposed executive order that we are being asked to endorse, and this is something that I believe many would like to see happen, and we would just like to have a little more of an understanding of what it means to have an executive order like this be presented to the president. So let me stop the sharing. And Pamela, you have the floor. Everybody else, please mute while Pamela is speaking so that she is uninterrupted in her presentation.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. For those that are here and those who will be here in the future watching this, hopefully sometime the next day or two, we have an exciting, even I didn't understand it when I first read it, as Lyra read it so beautifully. Thank you for reading that. Don Rufty is a man of incredible intellect, insight, and connection. Far more than I could possibly hope for in under a year with SOC. I read this the same time many of you did and told him my thoughts. I thought he had put it out there as a means of, give me your thoughts on this. Tell me what you think. Should we send this to DC? And I believe most of us felt that way when we read it. He called me out of the blue, which is not something Mr. Rufty does often. He's a very busy man. I don't take up his time. I'm not worthy. I'm a newbie on the scene, so why on earth is he calling me? He finds my way of communicating and understanding him of value. So I am merely a bridge. It's not that all of us misunderstood. It's that he is just so incredibly bright and has a different way of communicating than we everyday people. Mr. Rufty has an insider, an advisor to our president, who reached out to him, not the other way around, and requested that an EO be written that would cover Mondale 74 Act all the way up to present, which would cover George Sr., Clinton, George Jr., and Obama, and every small act that either added money, more money, and where they could take it from 74 forward. If you're not familiar with Mondale 74 Act, many are not, it is when non-contested divorces swept through this nation like a wildfire. They knew that if civil rights court or civil courts were used, they would be overloaded. We would have to triple, possibly even quadruple the amount of judges just to hear mere mediation cases. So Mondale set up in his mind mediation courts. And how do you set up a mediation court? Well, you can't unless you do it under admiralty color of law. This, from his own mouth, on the day that he signed it, the ink still wet on the paper, said, "I fear I've created an entity rife with corruption." And that was the day he signed the bill. They knew it was flawed, and they knew it was supposed to be temporary, understanding that in the 70s and maybe into the 80s would be the largest influx of divorces for non-contest, and that it would calm down. And the intention was always to retract Mondale 74 and any other funding for its counterpart in CPS to be retracted, and everything would then run through like it does now. If you truly abuse a child, you are waiting in criminal court for your day in court. There is none of these, well, you might be dangerous, well, you could be, you might have, what if in the future? I would love to ask CPS where they buy their crystal balls from, and is it tuned in perfectly? Because what they have claimed over the past 3 decades on parents is nothing short of malfeasance, criminality, and the absolute lowest form of human life that I can possibly think of, to attack a person's wealth through their child, knowing that person will spend every dime I have, and then some. Sooner, I was in another Zoom meeting, and thank you, Lyra, for everything that it's just incredible how many bricks you've got stacked on your shoulders and how much you get done. So what does this mean? There are a lot of people who really are constitutionalists, and I happen to be one of them. I look at this, and my first question to Mr. Rufty, and for those of you out there that are hardcore constitutionalists, we need to go back to 1871. No, we need to go back farther than 1871. We only lasted 100 years under the original founders' constitution before we started going off the rails. As far back as you want to go, this EO is literally going to wipe Mondale off. Once you wipe Mondale off, the automatic constitutional setback is to the constitutional principle prior to Mondale 74 being enacted. It'll be as though it never existed. What our president is trying to do is, with these EOs, take down as many, like the Department of Education is next. He's going to get rid of that. Okay? It too is not an entity supported by our Constitution. Through these enacted EOs, they will be the last EO written on this particular topic, and it doesn't need to become a bill, because a bill would mean that it was actually constitutionally correct to do so in the first place. Our president, just like most constitutionalists, want to make EOs, executive orders, what they were meant to be for: out of session, emergency financial, emergency military, until everybody came back into Senate and Congress to where actual 3-part system would then be put into play. And we do have 3 parts. We have a House, we have a Senate, and we have an executive. And each one only has so much power, which is what gives us, literally, if we uphold it, the best form of government the world has ever seen, if we can actually care for it. We became apathetic, we went to sleep, and this is what they've done with it. This EO is only going to cut off 1 tentacle of many of government overreaches. However, the immediacy of this EO, it'll be the last one ever having to be written. No president can then enact. Instead, it would have to be a bill or an act, just like Mondale did in 74, and there's no way this nation is going to allow that to happen again under any auspice, not after 35 years of pure unadulterated hell and trauma to families, to children, and to our nation. When you have 73 to 78% of this nation understanding a deep state exists, they have a problem. When you've got 60% of people that are aware CPS is no longer on task and doing its job, that family courts are a kangaroo court, they have a problem. When you've got more than 55% of the population understands Pizzagate isn't a joke, Pedogate is real, and whether that's because of Hollywood and Weinstein, or whether that's what's going on the East Coast, or the many great alt content creators who are making annotated, data-proofed, fact-checked, the very sick to the very perverse things that are going on with our children, the attacks that are happening with families who are homeschoolers. For those who may not know, every single forefather this nation bore was homeschooled, spoke at least 2 languages along with the natural American tongue. They went all the way from kindergarten until a 2-year junior education. No child went to college at 16 to 18 unless it was to get their master's or their doctorate. Homeschooling is what this nation began on, and it was an excellent education. Public school was part of a new modern age idea for those parents who worked, and now they know we see them. This has become a problem. 55% say a parent should be able to choose if they're going to homeschool, not level of education. Because if we had our druthers, we would educate our children and arm them for bear. Each one of these EOs is going to run very similar to what Lyra just read you in Don Rufty's EO for family courts and CPS, and it does cover both. And I'm going to tell you why. It covers not just family courts. Mondale 74 created family court. Now the family court was born. It's aborted fetus CPS, JDC court. It is an unconstitutional court. You are guilty before proven innocent, and you're lucky if you're proven innocent. If anything, you might get a unfounded. Okay? This is not something we're asking so that we can beg and plead like beggars and holding our bowls higher for DC to pick up. Instead, DC reached out to one of our own, asking if an EO was to be crafted, what does it need to say to eradicate Mondale 74 all the way forward? And Mr. Rufty, no matter what you feel about him personally, is the Tom Paine of our time. This is an absolutely complete evisceration of family court, admiralty court, color of law, and JDC. And it's that simple. And all he is now asking is how much support is behind it. We know the percentages of people that are waking up and where they're waking up. Are we willing to step up and wake them up to what this EO means? And how much are we willing to step forward and say, our job's done. This war is won.
Thank you, Pamela. That was very well put, and I appreciate you giving us some background on the entirety of the family court system and how long it really has been plaguing society here in our country. And I'm really hopeful that this executive order is going to get all the support that it needs, and I will be proposing that the Family Rights Party endorse this executive order. I have a meeting with them tomorrow night, hopefully. It is Easter. I'm not sure if we'll make it, but this is an amazing step of great importance for the family rights movement, for parents and families all across the country. And so, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions now that Pamela is here and has explained this? Or comments? Comments are good too. Hi there, Misty. Welcome.
Hi, Lyra. Thank you. Hi, Pamela and Kelly and
Hi.
everybody.
Hi.
That was amazing. I just am excited to know once that final draft is done and whatnot. Like, I'm ready to start handing out stuff, getting signatures, going to the courts, going all over. I mean, like, really getting people to just go and do it. I want something I can hand out, you know, and you know, that just is it's not an opinion, it's a fact. That, you know, and
okay, is this going to be, okay, are we going to explain it, or do we have a special, I don't know if you put the information in color or something that's going to attract people's attention, but do you have the information to put out for the families to actually read so they can digest it?
Kind of a simpler, more
right. So that
straight up kind of explanation of what
right,
this is
because
about.
some people aren't. I know what you're. I mean, I know what you're talking about, but some people who have, just like Kelly does.
I know you're.
Kelly does.
I don't even know. I didn't. I was listening, but I didn't understand what Pamela was saying.
Well, basically,
yeah, because I saw the letter that you showed about to President Trump, but I wasn't really. I was very confused about what you were saying, Pamela.
Okay, the thing of it is I'm not sure that some people are going to understand anything about Mondale or even know who he is.
I don't
I mean,
even
some
know.
of the,
Let me try it this way, because both of you, thank you so much for giving me that feedback. It's priceless to me, just priceless. Mr. Rufty has left that horrible task in my very failed human hands. If you are to read, our president is going to sign an executive order that is going to take down an illegal act that was put in place in 1974 that has allowed CPS and family court to traumatize your lives.
Okay.
That sentence makes sense to you? Or is that better put?
Yes. Yes, it is understanding. Yes. I understand that. Yeah. Yes.
okay, what did Mondale put forth that put the family court into action, and what was his reasoning?
Okay, the actual reasoning, and I'm sure you remember it much better than I, ma'am, and thank you for asking again, an excellent question. No contest divorce is not something this generation or even my generation is overly familiar with. It was born in my generation. I was born in 1966. Non-contested divorce didn't hit this nation until 1974. Within 1974, Mondale, who was also someone who ran with Janine Ferrero, I always thought it was kind of cool that he ran for president and had a female vice president all the way back in the 80s when dinosaurs still roamed the earth. He created an act because they understood there was a general consensus and understanding on the social side of things, that there were a lot of people who were going to take advantage of the no contest divorce that had just passed the House and Senate and was signed by that president then. So instead of overloading our civil court system, where we go and file bankruptcy, where we go and file and say, hey, my neighbor's tree fell on my roof and he won't pay to fix it. It's where we sue for pharmaceutical companies who have given us something awful and it's damaged our interior. A doctor who totally screwed up a surgery and you've lost a leg. Our civil courts are a place for the American people to come and redress their issues in front of an actual elected or appointed real judge. In JDC, Juvenile Dependency Court, and Family Court, these are lawyers in a judge's robe. They are not truly appointed, or rarely, I should say, rarely are they truly appointed judges, much less elected judges. They are 9 times out of 10 what's known as a lawyer, playing the part of an intermediary within the admiralty court system. And if you're thinking admiralty sounds an awful lot like a Navy term, you would be correct. It is. Under the color of law means under the color of the flag that you're flying on that ship. We are under the color of the American flag. So it has the tone and tenor of the American law without any of the protections of the American law for those being accused in these mediation type courts. So that's where I come up with a you're guilty until proven innocent, where we know in a regular court of law, it is the exact opposite. You are innocent until proven guilty by your peers. In JDC court and family court, there is no jury. You can even request a jury and they'll laugh at you. You can request all kinds of things that are constitutionally your right to have, and they do nothing and say no.
They said no.
No standing within those courts.
Okay, here in Missouri where we are, there's commissioners, and I don't quite know what their status is, but they're the ones who basically hear the cases, and there is a judge that does, but he's not very valid. He makes up stories, but I guess I don't quite understand why, and maybe, okay, I don't understand why people are accepting what is happening in family court without fighting for their rights. I'm frustrated because this forced adoption shouldn't be allowed. It should be contested. and it definitely should be some kind of law or something to happen to get rid of it. And I wish parents would understand that they don't give up just because their child was forced into adoption. Just go after them, and try to fight for them. Because I see so many people so discouraged, and I feel like they need some information that's going to uplift them and keep them going.
That's really beautifully put. That really is perfectly and beautifully put, and that very much imbues the feeling that Mr. Rufty put in the beginning of his executive order rough draft. I believe it would be best and easily said to parents, this war is won. All we need to do is sign. Literally, this war is won. What commissioners, magistrates, they come under a lot of different names, usually commissioners and magistrates. They are lawyers, but they are not playing as a judge. They are playing as a mediator. Think of a divorce, except the divorce isn't between a man and a wife. Instead, the divorce is between you and the state. The state claims status parenti, which means the state is the parent. It is nowhere in our Constitution. It has never been built or framed into our Constitution, and all 50 states claim, as long as you remain a good parent and do as we tell you to do, follow our codes, our statutes, vaccines, indoctrination centers, you eat just right, you sleep when you're supposed to, you have the right job. The minute we determine you're not living the way we believe you should live, we are going to become the true parent of your property, which is your child, and they then do with that property as they wish. In civil courts, there's immediate redress for this. Children are not property. Period. End of topic.
End of story. Yes.
Okay. The only way the Mondale Act of 74 works was to create status parenti, and states jumped on it fast and quick because they understood very quickly. This meant millions to multi-millions to hundreds of multi-millions of dollars in their very thin budgets. So now it is a fat cat that can't live off of anything else. And all of these courts are known as procedural courts. They are not true courts. They go by procedures, codes, and statutes, not law. There's a difference between law, procedures, codes, and statutes. Okay?
Right.
That court is illegal, and the EO is written because it's a procedural, mediation, admiralty, color of law, social entity pointing a finger with allegation only. Rarely is there founded proof.
Yes.
In founded proof cases, those become criminal, not civil, criminal cases, which are over here, with an elected judge who puts those parents, like the 13 they just put in Southern California, the 13 children, those parents who got chains and starved them, that's a criminal case. So then you have to look at CPS with all their concerns, their worries, and their allegations. How am I suffering? How is my child stuck in foster care for 6 months, 9 months, 23 months? Oh my God, they just adopted my child out. And all that was alleged, never proved, alleged was something wild, like I'd grown a third tent or a second head. It's ridiculous and insane. I had a family of 5 taken over 2 garbage bags at the front door for when the dad left for work in the morning, okay? Because these courts turned from helping to adjudicate and mediate 2 parties, man and wife, because women were not fully in the full workforce as they are now. 55% of American households now have the women as the breadwinner, not the man. That was not the case in 74. So these mediation courses was to take these men with these at-home women so the women could still survive and feed their children even though the man was removed from the equation. And it was forced that he must visit his children, where now this man is being leashed, or woman, it could be either one, whoever has the money or the higher paid job, is leached. And they do it for years because they know any good parent will fight to their last penny and their last breath to get their children back. So the courts automatically give bad mothers and bad fathers the child, knowing this will throw the good parent into fighting even harder with everything they have. And it can go on for years. I have a case where it went on for 8 years. Lauren Thompson.
Okay. The other thing is that in our case, the judge, I guess he was elected. I guess he's elected, but I mean, he made a decision 3 months after the hearing on the termination of parental rights that was based on not facts, but it looked to me like the judge had actually written the reasons for her termination according to what he felt would pass under the law that's in the state law. And so, but there's nobody to check on what he wrote. Our attorneys right now, they're for us, but they don't see that what he did was wrong. Was really, he took facts that were half facts. In fact, he had heard testimony within the hearing from people that said things that kind of combated against what he decided, but he would say, well, there was no evidence. Well, there was evidence. But I guess we're kind of frustrated because we don't know how to get this straightened out.
Well, it's meant to be frustrating, number one. If it were easy, every single state would run the exact same way, and every county would run the same way. Within California, we have 58 counties, and no 2 counties have the exact same SDM, the same procedural court, sometimes even the same courtroom. All 3 courtrooms will run differently. It is meant as a way to detour the American people from being able to fight an adversarial court system, which is what this is. I hate to even call it a court system because it's not. It's a mediation. It is
Right.
a room of mediation. It's to call it a courtroom is a farce. It's a charade. It's kabuki theater of the worst type. Okay?
Okay,
The appeals process and your board of supervisors are who is over these JDC, juvenile dependency, or family rights courts. When one has an issue with a malfeasance, misfeasance, nonfeasance, lawyer, county pretender, private or otherwise, judge, commissioner, or magistrate, you are to not only file an appeal with that court, you're also to file one with your DA of your state. And if your lawyers aren't doing that, shame on them. Tell them to get on that. And they also are to file with the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors then must investigate with the DA, and that's how we start locking them up. And guess what they usually do? All of a sudden, there was a huge mistake. We're all so overworked. It's not our fault. There's just too many cases, and we got your files mixed up. I adjudicated the correct sentence, but on the wrong case. Here's your child back. And that's called a settlement conference. When they are called to the carpet in the right way by serious people who mean business and they know it and are going to expose this, they give you back your kid so damn fast it makes your head spin.
well, we had a commissioner who was the last commissioner, and I didn't really know how to handle it because basically she never heard both sides of the story. She would have the lawyers come up and talk to her for 15 minutes, and then they were finished. They were out of there until it was declared that she couldn't handle parenting. And there was no actual testimony from either side except that the commissioner was taking DFS's side.
And they normally do. That doesn't shock me at all. 9 times out of 10, when I speak to clients as the founder of Save Our Children, or any of my other intake workers take in a call, this is the case 9 times out of 10. These intermediary lawyers that are wearing a judge's robe as commissioner, magistrate, or as actual judge. It kills me. They actually says the honorable. There's nothing honorable about being a mediation judge in admiralty court. family, or otherwise. They will 9 times out of 10, they get their training and they're told, follow everything DHS, CPS, JFS, DCF, and all the other alphabet soups that mean Child Protective Services. Simply follow their lead. They're always right. There is on YouTube several judges who let this secret out. They have had threats against their life. They have threats against their person, and literally have had to go underground because they let it out that these lawyers who think, oh, I get to sit back in a nice, easy courtroom, abuse is cut and dry, this is going to be a piece of cake, and I'm going to get a percentage for as long as that case sits on my desk. Just like the lawyers get a percentage of the money for as long as it sits on the desk, which is why these get elongated out. 6 months and a day is an annual's worth of funding for the state for one child. 9 months and 2 weeks, that is a year and 2/3. They get to 23, they get the adoption incentive, plus 2 years worth of income for the child. Okay?
Michael
It's
is
a money racket. You need to understand it's a money racket, not a truth racket. If it were a truth racket, we wouldn't have a problem.
Michael
Right.
was has been in custody for 4.5 years, and the other thing is that the first hearing he did not have the commissioner did not allow our attorney or Kelly to testify on her behalf, and then also Michael was taken without a true warrant. And the lawyers we had one set of lawyers, and then we had another set for the termination, and they just let it go. And I see right now where there's been several big cases across the country where people have been awarded money because their child was taken illegally. But these lawyers won't touch it.
What I was wondering, Pamela, is how long before it's too late can a parent file an appeal with the state board of directors?
As far as my understanding, and there are lawful time limits within the procedural courts, and they do vary sometimes state to state. So please take this as a generality, not a specific for Missouri, okay? There is a specific time frame to file an appeal once your case is done. And what does that mean when your case is done? First, there's a DOD. That's the detention hearing. That's the 48 to 72 hours from the day they take the child out of the home until you're in front of a judge. Then you have jurisdiction, and that's where they decide if the child's going to stay in foster care or if it's going to go with a family member, guardian, or back home on an unfounded case. Then there is disposition. And disposition is where CPS will take 3 or 4 days and show every one of their concerns, allegations, and worries. The only thing they don't show you is the crystal ball they're using that defines these worries, concerns, and allegations. Rarely are they backed up with any real evidence. With what they allege, that parent would be in criminal jail. They would be in county jail awaiting a criminal trial. So these are worries and concerns. There's not enough food. Poverty is not a reason in any SDM to remove a child from your care. Low IQ is not a determination unless you put a child in safety's harm, endangered, neglected, or abused in any way. And when I mean neglect and abuse, I mean the common layman's understanding of abuse, neglect, and endanger. 10 to 15% of the cases that run through these courts are abuse, neglect, and endangerment cases. And these mothers and fathers rarely go to criminal court. One has to ask themselves why. CPS will keep these cases going in and out, and the child is rarely detained in foster care than more than 30 days and returned to the home because those children are already damaged. They've already got the parents plugged into every single possible social service they can. There's no more money to be taken. Those kids don't make money for the state. They take money away from the state. They want the 83 to 87% of children who are healthy and loved, regardless if they're homeless, regardless if their parent has a disability, if it's a one-parent household, or any other scenario. They cannot tell you how clean your house has to be. If you're living in a hoarding situation, you're endangering your child. If you've got a few dishes in the sink, you're fine. They have used everything. Realize that what you are hearing and seeing is a charade. It's kabuki theater. It's not real. It's what they're telling you, but it's not the truth of what they're actually doing. So you're going to have to file an appeal, and that's usually within so many days from your very last determination hearing. What's great is a civil rights suit can be filed.
We did file an appeal, and the appeal was held in the Kansas City,
downtown Kansas City.
Downtown Kansas City.
Yeah.
But our attorney wanted them to take it on over to the Missouri Supreme Court, because it was dealing with Kelly's disability and the ADA law, and then it was also dealing with the Constitution. Now we're sitting on hold. This was the 6th of March. These judges have not made any decision yet, so we're sitting longer, and Michael stays out of our.
But this is good news. Let me give you a ray of hope. This is good news. Usually they will within a very short time frame. I've seen 2 weeks or shorter. If they're going to deny it and there's no merit, they deny it immediately. That it has not been denied means they are finding more mistakes than they're finding merit.
Okay.
Hold hope in your heart. Hold hope. That's a good sign.
Okay, the other thing, I don't know, it's a complicated case, but the other thing is that I believe firmly that the foster parents made a deal with DFS, and because rights were terminated in 2017,
Right.
and in 2015 already, in the reports from the doctors, the parent aide was talking about, oh, they were going to adopt Michael. They were just waiting for termination. Now, why would she be saying that if there wasn't some kind of collusion between them?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. And what you're perceiving, what you're hearing, and what you're saying, and unfortunately I hear it hundreds of times a day. Many times, the CPS worker will tell a foster care provider or an overpaid babysitter, go ahead and bond with this child. We know you want to adopt. This baby will be available for adoption in 15 months, 23 months, 20 months, 6 months.
Right.
Most foster parents that work with the county have no clue of the truth of it and are horrified when they find out how they got that child, especially when they find out it came from a 2-parent family, no drugs, no abuse, no neglect.
And that's only if they find out. Most of the time they're told all kinds of lies and untruths by the social workers, and they don't even want to talk to the real parents. They refuse to.
Right.
And that happened to me. So,
yeah.
I mean, you know, and we're looking at this executive order as a way to resolve all of these issues once and for all, and stop having to fight in this kangaroo court for the rights that we have as fundamental rights.
Okay,
this fundamental
happens,
rights. And
yeah.
so
This happens to be this, I really firmly believe that this foster parent knows exactly what's going on, because she lied in court. And the DFS caseworker actually told Kelly, when there was supposed to be reunification, oh, don't you want to let the foster parents have them? They would have a better home. And so from the very beginning, there's a strong push to put Michael up for adoption. And I think, and I don't know how to prove it, but I really feel that the foster parent is involved and she knows exactly what's going on.
I wouldn't doubt it. It's not even a stretch. Anything that comes out of a CPS, DHS, supervisor, caseworker, social worker's mouth is a half-truth or an outright lie. Take your pick. The foster parents who are so desperate for a child. Because remember, they stipend every month they have your child, even though they're being saints and adopting, they get paid every month just like they were a foster care provider, all the way up sometimes until that child is 22. And there's a price at the end of your trial when they say, okay, this child is adoptable. You can get up to $60,000 to go buy that boat you want, or go buy that vacation home, or whatever, as an incentive to the foster care parents to become adoptive parents. Okay?
Okay, I understand. I want to do something about stopping this whole thing with all the people involved. I don't know exactly where to go, but I want to bring all of them to justice somehow, because this won't stop unless it is.
That's why we have this proposed executive order here that we're talking about tonight, Marge, and it's something that is that glimmer of hope you're talking about, that all of these parents who are losing hope, don't lose hope. Keep fighting. All of our children are worth so much more. My children are worth so much more to me than the whole world combined. And I know that for a lot of parents out there fighting, they feel the same way. And there's just no option for me to give up hope. I have no option but to keep going forward, doing and finding whatever possible options there are, and this proposed executive order sounds very promising, and especially that it has been requested by part of Trump's cabinet to be written.
I'm glad it's happening. It will include all ages, and it's not. Somebody commented something about maybe they had to be after a certain age in order to be able to be following the executive order, but I sure hope he's going to end up making it all children of any age.
There is no age restrictions. This is more about family court and shutting family court down. This is, I mean, that's what Pamela has been talking about, getting rid of family court, and therefore, and going back to pre-1974 Mondale, pre-Mondale's, was it an executive order or law? I'm sorry,
Mondale Act of 74.
Mondale Act. Okay.
Yeah, it was in response to the non-contest marriage. Because before that, you had to have permission, a wife had to have permission from her husband or to show cause for divorce. No non-contest divorce not only threw us socially forward where we weren't ready, but it, oh, sorry guys, turn off my camera for a minute because I had my cat on me. Sorry, I didn't think you wanted to see cat butt. Yeah, I'm just trying to be respectful.
Thank you.
I got them both laid down now, and they're on their heating pads, and they're very happy. I have very needy kitties, and I've got very needy puppies. Yes, I'm one of those animal people. Anyway, the non-contest.
Yeah, that's okay. We love animals too.
Oh, okay. So what this EO is going to do, and Lyra is absolutely over the target, and she read it exactly correctly off the EO. This is not just for children who are in the system now, or who were recently in the system, or who recently got out. Folks, from 1974 forward to present day. So any child that has been harmed because he or she was adopted or put into foster care will have redress in a civil or criminal court of law under our Constitution.
Going back to executive order.
I mean, you have to go to court after this executive order in order to get it settled?
I'm not sure how Trump is going to set it up, but this EO leaves open constitutionally. It wipes Mondale 74 completely off the books as though it were never written. Wow. So any redress the public is going to have, I would imagine, are going to be in large groups, state by state class action. So the federal and state governments not only can give redress to their populace, but to the children and families they've traumatized. That's my understanding. We will see, but that's why we're only giving our names and support, and how he, our POTUS, Donald J. Trump, will be accountable to every name on those EO in support of.
Okay.
answer to us. So if he comes up and says, we're going to do state by state class action with federal watchers, we will have to come together as a community. And there are a lot more of us than we realize.
I know.
yeah.
Every one of us, there's at least 100 parents. And behind those parents are another 100 parents. And behind those parents are another 100 parents. And on every single one of those shoulders are children standing on top of them, waiting to scream their story. They will have to do this just like they did in mass in 74. The exact same will have to be done in reverse for true constitutional redress. And that is, if he wants to make the 2020 POTUS position, if we hand it to him, he must listen to us, and he must do what's right, and he must return this country to constitutional principles, or we are not going to uphold this government any longer.
Yeah.
I understand.
Amen.
Amen to that.
Good job.
Okay.
We have a couple of guests here tonight who have not had a chance to speak. If we could
Okay.
open up the floor now for a welcoming of Dale, Maria, and Lanita. Welcome to all of you to tonight's meeting. We have been discussing about this proposed executive order that Don Rufty was requested by government officials to draft up for family rights.
A close advisor is my
A close
understanding.
advisor. All right. Well, and so this is the most current version as sent to me by Pamela tonight.
Okay.
And I will have it posted on the video site as well for everybody to read at their leisure. And we are asking that you not be posting this meeting tonight on social media. We are asking for people to just share this explanation with other parent advocates that are in the family rights fight for their rights as parents and to bring their children home. And for supporters and advocates of the family rights movement. We don't want to tip our cards or tip our hand yet as to what this really is as far as in the public eye. It's not that time yet. And so we're just asking that parents use discretion in sharing this information now. And hopefully in the future we'll be able to do a little more PR, but I mean.
Well, and this is only phase one. And again, forgive me if I didn't explain it. This is for advocates to look at, because advocates, without getting paid, tirelessly, day in, day out, for over a decade, have been screaming this mantra and working for you. And there's so many names. Those names need to come forward. We need to know who those names are so that we can thank them for their altruism, because anyone who does this work doesn't do it for the glamour. They certainly don't do it for the pay, and they certainly don't do it for the hours, because it's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week game. They do it because they understand constitutionally we're under fire, our families are under fire, and our nation's children are under fire. So this is only phase one. It's not a secret, but why on earth would you tell China that you're going to bomb them 5 days before you bomb them? Instead, it's better for advocates to look at it, discuss it, come to an understanding. I'll be writing something out Monday. Let me get through Easter. Please, God, let me get through Easter. And then you guys can all tell me, add this, take that out. I like this. I don't like that. I am not a one-woman show. I am 1,000 advocates. And your voices and your wording is important so we get it perfect.
Absolutely.
Because phase two is going to the American public.
Yes, right. So thank you, Pamela, for clarifying that. And I would like to know if anybody else has any comments and questions regarding this proposal.
I don't think so. Well,
Dale?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Having come in a little late, and I really apologize because this is really a critical issue. Pamela, to make this understandable so I could get my head around this, basically what they've done is pushed all of these issues into administrative law by executive privilege.
Yeah.
So what the law what has to be proven is that the administrative law has gone beyond its statutory authority and abrogated everybody's constitutional rights. So we have to, the way we are going to attack this is with a class action suit involving a number of people to get the whole issue. And there are all these agencies that are functioning under executive privilege right now. The bar, the nursing board, consumer affairs, and they're all pulling these policies and procedures out of their rear end, and none of them are legal. But because of this little construct of administrative law and executive privilege, they do it by executive order. And then I went through this with my stepdaughter and the nursing board. So are we talking about aggressively seeking a class action suit with a group of parents? What's going to be the strategy for attack?
Okay, I'm understanding what the question is. And it's a fantastic question, and it deserves a really great answer. I can give you a mediocre one. I don't have a crystal ball. What I can tell you is the Mondale Act of '74 is only an act. They attached it to a bill. In the constitutionality of it, we don't even have to worry about it because it's only an act that can be repealed at any time by any one of the three powers in DC. The executive through an EO, which is what we are proposing, and what Lyra read so beautifully at the beginning of this. If you don't have a copy, I know she's happy to send it to you through messenger, email, or text so that you have it. I sent the most recent draft that Mr. Rufty went through to make sure it was very concise and clear. So he is going to merely repeal an act, kind of like a gas tax act, can be repealed at any time by a governor through pressure of public pressure or his populace not withholding it and having tax strikes. And we've seen those in the 70s. This will run very similar, with the exception of we're not a product, we're individual human beings that are covered under the foundation inalienable rights of our Constitution. How far back do you want to go? We could go into theoreticals of, well, where does the true Constitution end and a newer Constitution begin? When do we become a corporation? I can't answer any of that. I am not a historical constitutional theologian, as so many out there have become. It has become their religion of choice, and arguing over what the true Constitution is versus the basic version we were all taught in high school. So suffice it to say this, it is completely legal as is for the Mondale Act to be repealed by an EO, and if they ever wanted to reenact it, they would actually have to start a whole new process of making a bill, legislation and a bill. And there's no American who has fought for decades against this horrific, traumatic, abnormality, unconstitutional court is going to stand up and allow that to happen. As far as class action, I had discussed this earlier, and I'm sorry if you missed it. Let me try and be succinct. I don't know if they'll go state by state, if it will be a federal watcher, state by state, or if it'll go county by county, or if it'll merely be a federal oversight period. There will be redress for every American from 1974 forward. Every family, every child affected by these courts that were not founded, not criminal, because if it were a true crime, they would be in criminal court. Instead, these JDC family courts are only held as procedural and under an act. The act is not constitutional within itself, and no one is arguing that The act is constitutional. In California, we've had many gas taxes repealed because they were written unconstitutionally. Okay, so this is what the president is going to do with this EO. He is merely going to state on the front page, due to the unconstitutionality of Mondale Act, and then its actual subsection and what bill it was attached to. Remember, no bill goes through as a single bill. They will say, oh my God, the Republicans or the Democrats are so awful. They won't give funding to this bill. Well, never mind, it's the 8th or 9th thing on that bill. They're not telling you about anything else, nor that the funding for that specific thing has already been done 16 times. We are not being told the truth. Know what the bill is. Know what an act is. And the act can be repealed without attempting to go to Senate or Congress, which right now look like a bunch of monkeys playing with their bums at a zoo.
Well, this clarifies. Okay, any pathway, the quickest way and the easiest way is the best way. So what I'm saying is, if political pressure is put, if we petition it, and we have state by state, because if Trump may issue the order, but the governors may choose to ignore them.
Like they have so many other laws.
But this act was enacted at the federal level. So when the feds peel it back and the federal watchers go to all 50 states, and there will be federal watchers, they will be dismantled because there is property, right? Property has value. We have buildings, we have cars, we have pensions, we have benefits. This is how the federal government is going to be able to reseize from these illegal entities not only their fortune and their oaths, but it's how we're also going to lock them up in jail for the rest of their lives. Comply, same thing they do to us. Comply or lose everything you've ever earned, and it gets paid back into the federal treasury to satisfy the duress complaints of the American people.
And so the duress complaints have to be filed in order for the parents who have been incurred damage to get reparations for that damage, those damages. Okay.
Yeah, they're going to have a way to help parents fill out whatever they're supposed to, because I'm confused on where you go and what to do.
Well, and that's something we would have to start exploring and looking into. Okay.
Thank you, Pamela. I appreciate that.
I appreciate your question. It was a great question. Man, you really made my brain work hard to answer it.
We got a lot of work to do. That's what it comes down to.
Yes.
Okay.
So we got to get our punch list and our assignments and get busy in our respective areas.
And phase 1 is this group right here, and the 100 people behind you, and the 100 people behind you, and 100 people behind them. Advocates and those who advocate for. I don't care if you're a grandmother, an aunt, an uncle. If you're advocating for someone that's going through this, your next door neighbor, your niece, your sister, your brother, okay, that makes you an advocate in every sense of the term. Please make sure advocates who are working this, who are in it and see it. It's so important that we have that support before we hit the American public, because how breathtaking is it to have 50 pages of advocates held up and said, these 50 advocate groups of 1 to 1,000 people support this EO. As an American citizen, that now has political gravitas, that now has political power.
Okay, how are you going
Amen.
to get these groups? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Where are you going to get the advocates from that have people behind them?
We have them. We're right here. We have a group of advocates.
I know, but we need more, and I'm just wondering,
like here,
how are we going to get pull others in?
I can tell you, in my case, my grandson graduated last year from Berkeley, and I raised Benny. In my aspect of raising him, I said, "You're not put on this earth for your own benefit. when he got a hold of me, he said, we're getting a petition working 27,000 signatures to get on the ballot that we got to get some rent control in Long Beach because it's absolutely insane. And so what, being an advocate means that you go out and you organize a community, the people that you know are in the family courts that have been victimized, and build a team of advocates. Each individual in our own place. So I already visualized where I'm going to go and what I'm going to do and who I'm going to talk to, and then together we've got to decide how we're going to do this in our own individual locales, how we're going to organize these groups so that we get something, a petition on the ballot to say that regardless of what the president does, this is what we want done in our own state. And if enough people are petition and enough people get involved, there's no way that they can not recognize it. So the specific strategies on what we do and how we do it, that's what this is all about. What works and what doesn't, and based on experience. And,
okay, the thing I wonder about is, I guess we're asked to have this confidential, which I understand. Okay, so how are you supposed to transfer what you know over to others so that they can understand what it's about?
Well, first of all, we've got to talk to personally those individuals who've been victimized, and then we've got to form groups of victims, okay, and then from that group of victims, we build an organization, and we start to get horsepower, okay, and by numbers. So it's nuts and bolts, hitting the street, wearing out shoe leather, talking to people on the phone, talking to people personally, talking to the people that are representing these families, and having this network of people, and then organizing media events, organizing demonstrations, organizing. This is, they criticized Obama for being a community organizer, but it doesn't matter what the issue is. If you can't organize a community and get the people involved in the community over those issues that are critical, then you're out here by yourself, which is how they've been able to manipulate the government, because we're not organized,
Right.
as a country.
Okay,
We're divided, and they keep on dividing us more and more. It's the oldest trick in the book, divide and conquer. And that's, even with this separation of Democrats and Republicans, it's all about the division. And, I work really hard with Family Rights Party and with the Coalition for the Protection of Children and Family and other parent advocate groups, talking about how we need to be coming together and finding the common ground for us all to be working together, despite our ego, despite personality quirks, despite whether or not people are rude. There's even more important issues that we need to be focusing on. And so, that's definitely, thank you, Dale, for sharing your ideas about how to reach out in our communities. We need to be getting out the door, stop being sitting in front of the computer and just talking online. We need to talk to people in person and say, hey, this is what's going on. We know that you're having a problem with this department. We've had problems with this department. Let's work together. Let's start coming up and working together and connecting with other communities, working together to stop these abominations.
Okay.
I would suggest right here is a key thing, but particularly if in your state or where you're located, get the one that is the most abusive, okay, and attack him with the facts. And so you go, because you have this family, and because you have this family, and because you did this to this family, and because you did this to this family, and you have a record, what happened to the parents, what happened to the kids, and the abuses, So it puts the whole country on notice, that we're coming after you. All right, we're coming after you with all the vengeance of hell for what you've done and the injury that you caused. The people, the kids, the family, all of our institutions and our country. So this gets real visceral, and we, if you have all these things notarized and deposed, and you've got a stack of papers that say, well, this guy belongs in jail. He kick his rear end off the bench, and there was Barry Scheckler was criticized for the effort that he made to defend O.J. Simpson, and he took all that money that he won, and he started a foundation to get the innocent people that are sitting on death row released from prison because of the DNA evidence. So
the question I have is, at least what I'm observing from the people who are posting is particularly the parents who are posting, not the advocates, but I'm seeing people who really don't know what they are. I mean, where they are. They don't know. They're frustrated. They don't understand the system, and they don't know the actions they need to take. And I feel like you're going to have to let them know that they have the ability to do such and such and such so that they can fight it in order to even get them interested in knowing what to do, because you can't talk them into doing something that they don't even know what the path is to get there.
That's part of the education is a big part. The work that Pamela does.
That's
Okay.
a long and drawn out conversation, and I'm gonna have to wrap this meeting up tonight.
Okay.
I do apologize that this is the way it is, but I have another meeting I have to go to. We need to start making connections in our communities. I'm working, like tonight I'm going to be going out and doing some community outreach. I have a couple of people, including Dale here and Pamela. We need to just get into our communities and start looking, like in Missouri, when you're online, even looking for all those parents who are writing their stories in Missouri. And you may not be able to find them all quickly, but I know a lot of parents who are listing where they're from or where they're at, and they're talking about where their case is at. You could probably even put in Facebook a search request for Family Rights Missouri and come up with some links. So and that's just one state, and we just need to start reaching out close and in not just online, but out in our towns and cities everywhere. And so I really appreciate everybody joining tonight.
Here's the first place I would start, and I'm really honest with you. In this matrix of all these attorneys and public defenders that are fighting the good fight for the right reasons, those are our best allies, because they can get down to individual cases and introduce you to the people that are really being injured. And so it's a matter of developing a relationship and trust with these individuals that are in the system, so that they're in for the long haul. And then when you get those people that have the real tenacity to keep fighting no matter what, and make that the core group, okay? And so you're going forward with, then you're going to find out there's a lot of work that's already been done, and documented, and depositions taken, and evidence that when you go after them, you can subpoena that evidence and use it to convict the people that made the decisions. So this is, whatever thoughts come to your head, it's a journey. Act on it. Whatever you can do in your local area, just get an idea and start on the path and start talking to people and start engaging the community around you, because this is a numbers game. The more power, the more people that we have with us. And I mean, when you talk about an advocate, that's somebody that's going to be there 24/7, like Pamela, like Lyra, like you. This is in your bones, in your heart, in your soul, and there's no stopping until we win. There's no other option. Okay, and we'll die trying. That's the type of thing, the tenacity we have to have, and dedication.
How do you find out? How do you find out who the people are that you can work with? You're talking about attorneys and those. How do you find out who they are? Because I don't know particularly anybody.
Well, this is in my own case. I would just have have a vigil in the family court where there were public hearings over this issue, and there's going to be a small group of attorneys that keep showing up in the same place all the time over the same issues, because it's like a mechanic. If you get a good mechanic that takes care of your car, your particular brand of car, you go to him all the time. Well, if there are those attorneys that get results in the courtroom because of the way they take a case and defend it, then if those are too busy, you can get a referral of somebody that will do pro bono work, and because it's a legal structure that we're trying to build, and it's a legal strategy and tactic that we're trying to develop. So it takes first the individuals, each individual case, and then making a network of all these defendants whose rights have been violated. Yours included, people just like yourself. So when you're sitting there thinking, how are the people that I need to talk to right here in my community? And you're going to find out your other great resource is the churches. Okay, you go into the pastors and you talk to the in spite of all the horrific things that have been done with the church, within the church there are all those people that are really trying to do good. So you have to find that group that says, listen, I know this horrible case, and that I've been working with and not making any headway. You're not alone. You're not the only one that's getting hammered by this. And I had my experience with my kids in my first marriage, and it was horrific. And I made terrible decisions because there wasn't any good decision. I was left with little or no options, and it was brutal, and it basically destroyed my children. I've got a 40-year-old kid who's an ex-Marine, and he's still bouncing against the walls, and a victim of circumstances that he didn't have any control over. And I was alone as a committee of one, and I made decisions, and I knew when I made them, this was going to be a life-altering event for this kid. But I was in a position where the choices I had, they were all bad, and I made the best decision I could given those circumstances. And I tell him today, I said, as bad as it was, I'd make the same decision again. And that's what's pitiful, and so this is an issue that's really close to my heart, and I feel for everybody that's been abused by it. So, but now it's a matter of the Republicans are very effective in how they do things because they're highly organized, and unlike the liberal camp, which is laissez-faire, every man for himself and willy-nilly, and we're easily victimized, and so we have to be as highly organized and disciplined, and more so than our adversaries. okay, with little or nothing, but more than faith, and that's so we really are the underdogs, and so well, and I said, well, and that's what really is astounding is when you start really putting faith in your Creator, you're not an underdog. David can slay Goliath, and it's not luck, but you have to really prove to your Creator that you're serious. Okay, that does this is not a joke. I'm willing to lay down my life and my soul and my heart and everything that I have to make this happen.
That's right. Thank you,
And
Dale.
if I fail, then trying to do it, then there's no harm, no foul. I've done what I could, and so and it when you're asking yourself, ask yourself this question, and I'm telling you, in time, if you're really sincere, you're going to get an answer of who you should talk to, and it's probably somebody right under your nose. You won't have to go very far. It's just right in front of you, and you say, well, how did I miss that? It's putting our collective minds for a common purpose, and all of a sudden the universe opens up and provides a way. If you're serious, this is and that's really what it is. It's commitment and it's dedication. So that's I'm out of gas.
Thank you, Dale. And with that, I wanted to share our core meditation focus of community, bringing people together of all different faiths, religions, and ideologies with this prayer. We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. And when one is helped, all are helped. And when one is healed, all are healed. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all that is, I ask that only that which is in the highest good of all concerned happen. And I give thanks that this is done. So be it, and so it is. And this comes from our website at the Coalition for the Protection of Children and Families. We also are inviting parent advocates to please join us in furthering and helping parent advocates and working together for family rights all over the country, all over the world, in fact. There is a registration form that you can fill out and become a part of the mailing list for events and assignments that will be forthcoming. And that's me. I apologize for that, but that's what I want to do, and
Amen.
So we're all here to want to help everybody, and working together is the way we're going to get this done. There is no other option. And I appreciate all of your time and attention and putting effort into helping connect everybody, because we are all one.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen.
And I want to say good night to you all. Thank you for joining, and we will have another great meeting next week. It was a great meeting tonight. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night, y'all. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, Maria.
Good night.
Hi,
Good
Kelly.
night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good
Bye.
night, everybody.
Good night, Gail. Bye. Good night, everybody.